Just as an opening question, I like to throw one at all the panelists. As someone using AI tools and someone building AI tools for the legal system, where do you see the biggest gap today between what the law expects and what AI systems can realistically deliver? We can start with you, Mr. Desai.
Okay, first of all, we should try to understand what's algorithm and what's AI, right? Algorithm, I believe, is a set, and you understand better than I know, all of your technical people. But the way in which I understand is that it's step-by-step process to solve a problem. Okay, AI has more interpretative abilities, so it can have more knowledge-based situation. So when things have to be interpreted, I think AI comes out a little better in different way, because we'll have to incorporate a lot of elements to the whole thing. And as you mentioned, there are even liability issues, another thing we should discuss in the course of our discussion today. But I believe that from objective to more of subjective would be the major difference, and that would evolve into how kind of justice is delivered, how the lawyers operate on that. What is the role of lawyers itself? Whether we will exist or not is also a question mark sometimes. But at the same time, we believe that AI would be more enabler than just displacement. So one of the training that we'll have to give to everybody is to see how do you use AI for solving a problem.
Sure. Ben, the question is the biggest gap today between what the law expects and what AI systems can realistically deliver.
It's a great question. So I think the real challenge we have at the moment is, an over-expectation of what can be delivered. And we're definitely seeing the early signs of what's possible. And so you can definitely see a benefit in your sort of access to knowledge, your ability to scale that up at the lower ends of the profession, provide those building blocks. But the full end-to-end piece of replacing a legal workflow with AI, we're a long way from that. And I think what we've heard this week in Davos is that that's a perception across the industry. So I think the biggest challenge is that perception, which is causing people to focus on really difficult things the technology is not quite ready yet for, and perhaps taking attention away from some of the simpler things which may not be as sexy but actually can offer real value and benefit right now.
Sure. Sakai?
I think the biggest problem that I face in the industry that people talk about is hallucination, and the technology is such that the technology of AI or the tokenizers are such that hallucination is key to it. And I think that's the biggest problem the industry is facing today. And it's only possibly with deep compute and a lot of documents which you could deeply ground to prevent hallucination. That's one biggest problem that the industry is facing.
So the question to you, Carlos, is as AI systems become more powerful, who should control the trust? Technology providers, governments, courts?
So we are coming from the European angle on AI. Actually, the discussions in Davos are less about regulation now on AI, but more how to inject into the AI algorithm the trust requirements. So you create a trust core that allows the AI not to become rogue or go against your interests. And this technology-wise is very easy to do. I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of time on legislation to solve what is going to be actually a technical issue. For instance, adding cryptographic capability into the AI that verticalizes the AI model on national level. You can create a sovereign AI very easy by injecting strategic code. So that's the tendency. And this, because AI for the moment is, the LLMs of AI is being used for very unsophisticated issues. AI has not yet, solved any major problem. I think something is going to accelerate that process is what you call physical AI, which is another very big discussion going on in Davos, is how physical AI injected into objects, and we are talking about 7 trillion objects to be connected, will allow the object to become intelligent, but at the same time being under the control of the institution that has ownership of that object. It doesn't need to be the government or the technology platform. I don't think the technology platform in any way should be in control of AI. That's actually will be an aberration, because they will convert that into power and money and influence. I don't think the government neither, because if the government does it, like it is the case in Europe, the AI developers goes to another country where the data is more accessible and easier to train their models. So I think it's more about the individual itself, AI will become more human once we know how to inject that control mechanism into the algorithm. I think what law can do, and this is essential now, is to develop a sovereign framework for AI expanded to quantum. And this is where the United States just came with the CNSA 2.0, which is our regulations that said everybody before the year 2028, which is the Q day. At IBM yesterday, I had them on a panel and they confirmed that they need to be post-quantum ready. So that means that I was in India the entire last month, talking to everybody about the requirement of India to develop legislation to be compliant with what is coming, which is the quantum computer potential threats. And for that, you need to be PQC ready at the software level and at the hardware level. And lawyers need to develop the legislation.
Can existing legal frameworks handle AI? Do we need to eventually get new laws for a totally algorithmic driven world? Ben, we can start with you.
I have a pretty clear view on this, which is most of the issues created by AI and the technological disruption can be handled by existing legal frameworks. The sort of tendency to want to regulate on a specific sui generis basis, I think, creates more problems than it solves. It's not saying there are some specific things you might need to deal in, but sort of general horizontal legislation around AI I don't think is helpful. The law, 20 years ago I wrote a thesis about the fact that contract law, the law of agency, the law of vicarious liability can deal with most of the sort of attribution policies problems we have. And so particularly in common law markets, I don't think you need it. I think what you need are sectoral regulators who understand the outcomes that they want to regulate. For example, if you're a financial services regulator, it's already the case that you can't discriminate when you're granting a mortgage. What does the fact that the bank uses AI to come to that decision or not make a difference to that? You don't need to regulate the use of the AI, you need to regulate the outcome and the actor who's resulting in that outcome, in my view.
Sakar?
Yeah, I think the legal framework is already there. Okay. And AI needs to match up to the legal framework. And the legal framework cannot change because of any technology. The legal frameworks are made for the benefit of the business or the humans, and the technology has to adapt to that, number one. Number two, you also spoke earlier about the trust, who should ultimately control the trust. I think trust is a part of, there cannot be anybody controlling trust. Trust is something very personal to businesses, organizations, etc. So I've, like for example in LexLegis, what we do, we deep ground to prevent hallucination. We give explainable AI, and we give you source documents as to why and how we're giving this output. I think that is how trust will be formed. I don't think the regulatory framework can, force a trust into any organization, any system at all.
No, I have a different perspective that,
I was expecting that.
What is law or what is religion? Law is nothing else but a philosophy that is codified. Religion is a philosophy that is ritualized. We get more stuck in codes and rituals than the philosophy behind it. So law will never be able to catch up with the creative economy, because creative people, in Gujarati we say chor narni char, uske char aankh hoti hai, 4 eyes, somebody wants to steal, and those who are police, they only have 2 eyes. Okay, so one will have to be very careful about the whole thing. We'll have to really develop an ecosystem where people drive their behavior through philosophy, ethics, and humanities, and these subjects have taken backseat in last 100 years. Most of the attention has gone to science and other things, because behavior is something that we'll have to really see how do we, and biggest competitive advantage any organization could create is organizational behavior. So when you're ethical on what is ethics, and those is a role of philosophers, ethical thinkers and other kind of things will evolve, and because law will keep up, yes, it will keep up to some extent, but it will always be a catch-up game. That was what my thinking is, that is, unless you anticipate the consequences of new technologies about 10 years ahead of time, law will be a laggard.
I think we fully agree. Broad principles around where the barriers are of what we want this technology to do and the problems we want us to help it to solve, then you can still allow the innovation to occur. And if you look at the EU's AI Act, one of the challenges with that piece of legislation is it attempted to cover technology which was not even there, and the result is You either have products not being launched in Europe, that's a
Yeah.
problem for the European economy and consumers, or you have, to be frank, people just ploughing ahead because the law is inoperable in their reality, and they know it will have to break.
Carlos, before we let you go, one question. Do you see digital identity and cybersecurity evolving into a foundational legal right in AI era?
I fully endorse that. Maybe on the legislation part, I think a good way to think about legislation on AI is more on legislation on how to protect human against AI. Because the human is actually the final
Center.
destination here. It's not the technology, right? And if you can develop technology and develop legislation, and you need a strong legislation, including in Europe and mainly in the United States now, on how to protect human in the fourth industrial revolution with all this convergence of technology, because it's not only AI, it's AI, it's quantum, it's IoT, it's cryptography, is all this space technology, all that is converging into new technology models. So India actually is very advanced because you are one of the first countries in the world. I was in India visiting the Aadhaar agency with the CEO, and what you have done in digital identity is remarkable, and it's actually something that could inspire many countries to go in that way. Because if you don't protect the digital identity of the person will be automatically data mined on the AI system. You know, the AI doesn't understand what the person is.
And I would like to add that digital identity and cybersecurity is absolutely at threat. And all of them, the benchmark needs to be so much higher with quantum coming in, right?
Exactly. Quantum breaks everything, and IBM, I was on a panel yesterday with IBM where I invited the chief security officer. They told me this is 28, so in 28 you're going to have quantum computers that will break RSA. RSA is a 50 years old algorithm, has done a great job until now, but it's becoming legacy, right? So if a quantum computer breaks RSA, everything that has been encrypted with RSA is immediately available, and you have also the harvest and decrypt later issue, right? So a quantum computer will break cryptocurrencies. A quantum computer will break national security. I was with Israel. They will break satellite connectivity. So this is a very, very big challenge and opportunity as well, because that is allowing us to enter into the next computational revolution, which is going to be quantum. But that's going to change many things. It's going to change the database design. You don't need such a big database anymore because quantum computer requires less space. You don't need that much electricity anymore because a quantum computer doesn't use so much electricity. So this is going to redesign totally the ecosystem, right? And it's a huge opportunity for companies to grow with it.
Ben, how does your firm view AI? It's a disruption, productivity tool, or unknown?
All three of those things. So there's a definite productivity advantage, and we're already seeing both the demand side. We're seeing demand changing because our clients are using AI to do things they would have previously sent to us, and we can see that in the numbers. But we also see the productivity gains with adoption of the general purpose tools that our people are using. I think that is necessary but not sufficient for the future of our business. That's table stakes. The disruptive piece is around what I call level 3 AI use in our business, which is really saying, look, if you took a blank sheet of paper and started this process again, what would it look like? Given not what the technology can do now, but what it's probably going to be able to do in 2 years or 3 years. Because it's going to take us a bit of time to get to a delivery model that we can do that. And that's the disruptive piece, that rethinking legal services with an AI first mindset. There's a fourth piece, which is the sort of frontier. Can we do things we could never do before? And coming back to my first comment, that's actually lots of what clients and the market is talking about. But that's the really, really hard bit, and it will happen. We can already see opportunities in that space. But if you haven't done the first two, you can never achieve and access that fourth tier. So that's why we're focusing very much on that phase at the moment. So how do we get things AI native? The productivity, that's reskilling our workforce, that has to happen.
What have you built, a productivity tool or a disruptor?
That's interesting. I think we have built a productive tool. Disruption is going to be found as when users use it more. I think disruption is a process. It's not the first goal. I think it's a process that will come. But here, this is not a negative disruption. It's a positive disruption where possibly justice could be expedited. And I'm actually, in fact, very bullish about the quantum coming in the next couple of years, because with quantum, what you could actually do, like I always say that we are about 2 or 3% of what AI could do on the legal side. So imagine at about a 40% or a 60%, there will be solid disruption on certain parts, But there will be, of course, the unknowns that we have not yet seen, and there'll be new things that I completely agree, and there'll be new things that we'll be solving.
Your firm has been at the forefront, whether it's blockchain or whether it's Bitcoin. How do you see this? I mean, and especially as someone who's...
What we have done, I will tell you. I can share experience. I'm not advising, I'm not preaching people. But the way in which we have done, we have changed the model of the law firm completely to make law firm or law organizations as more transdisciplinary organization. Will not be able to meet up with the justice if we do not understand what the technology is and what it can do. So we have two types of situations. We have specialists, we have two futurists, both PhD in AI. One is in Silicon Valley and one in Boston, at MIT also, but he works with, they handle our offices. So they tell us what, we believe that any regulatory thing takes 8 to 10 years to come. So with predictive technologies, we do trend assessment and forecasting and try to see, first of all, foundational technologies. There is one set, this is like, it cuts across everything, okay? So they're horizontal. So whether it is nanotech, whether robotics, whether it is photonics, whether it is, all those kind of things. So there is one set of things that you need to understand. This horizontal thing will cut across.
So in terms of, if I look at law, it's going to change the economics of law firms. Billing is going to change the pyramid structure, where you hire 50% technologies or whatever percentage technologies, whatever percentage the legal expert. So I'm sure you would have done some kind of thinking on that when you would have done, then he definitely has done some kind of,
So
we can start.
Completely scrapped
We could start.
time-based billing.
Okay.
Completely scrapped. It's bizarre model for law firm. If you spend more time doing client's job, if you put more people on the job, you're more rewarded. Okay? Whereas what client wants is business at the speed of thought, creative solution, qualitative output. So we say that we use AI to do your 10-hour work in 1 hour. Bill will charge you for 10 hours because we give you a solution, not the answer just for the sake of answer. So unless you can use AI, so if I solve your problem, this is what is the value. And value is a matter of perception. Price is a function of demand and supply.
Ben, do you have a lab, or what kind of team do you have put together to study this impact?
Well, to study this particular impact, I mean, that's core to our business strategy. So there's not a specific team, that is the leadership.
Since you lead the innovation thing,
that's right.
You
so
play
we have
a large part in the firm's future.
That's right. So we have specific teams. We have an applied AI team that works with the models, works on projects with clients specifically to deliver. Obviously, our technology team's heavily involved, our knowledge team, but more importantly, our practices. So the actual lawyers. I think that's crucial. You can't deliver the outcomes that we want, that our clients want, without having the subject matter experts there. The days of technology being back office are over, and everyone knows that. I completely agree that the financial impacts are profound. It changes the business model of private practice law, and that the billable hour is gone. It won't go away completely, in my view. There are some types of work where that is a measure of value, but for the majority of work, you can bill on a basis that's not time and materials based. I think the challenge, the one sort of pause I have just from experience, is actually clients find it really hard to place a value that isn't based. Time is used as a proxy, right? It has been used as a proxy for 30 years. Yeah. And law firms, progressive law firms, have been trying to get off the billable hour for ages. It's actually counterproductive to them as well. They've built infrastructure around it, obviously, because it's the market pricing mechanic. So it's going to take a bit of time for that to go, but we're seeing patchy. But I would say, if I'm back here in 3 years' time, the majority of Baker & McKenzie's billing will be off the billable hour. But I don't think all of it, but definitely the majority of it. And we have a strategy to get us there in that process.
You've built a product which is going to disrupt.
No, I would never say it's going to disrupt. It's going to add value.
How will it change the economics?
See, I think my grandfather was a lawyer, and my father has been a quasi-judicial post. 75 years of law in the family I've seen. It literally flows in my blood. I think law is more of a relationship game, was a relationship game. It became a time billing game in between over the last 30, 40 years. If you go on to the old people, it was like you going to a doctor or and you would go to somebody you trust and believe, immaterial of whether he had the best equipments or not. So AI is again, it's all this hype is going to come down slowly somewhere. It's going to settle down somewhere with the billable hours or whatever it is. But it's slowly going to be turning into a relationship game. But the intelligence is now becoming a commodity. So even small boutique firms will be able to build better relationship with people because they will be able to give better outcomes as much as the large law firms, and that is going to possibly become a leveler in the larger play of things in law.
So if I see different companies will come up with different sets of laws, that will create more confusion than clarity in terms of AI regulation.
Yeah, I mean, this ties into the whole geopolitical conversation this week as well.
In Davos, it's been.
You know, we are entering a much more complex, much more fragmented world. The path to sort of harmonization and globalization of business regulations, technology regulations, and trade, you know, is in reverse. There's no doubt about that. So I think we're going to see a more regionalized approach. I actually think industry are going to have to lead here to figure out what those baseline norms are to allow business to be done globally. Now, for a period, that's good business for lawyers, right? I'm not going to be honest. Complexity requires expertise.
Yeah.
But I think the core thing is what the product has changed.
Yeah.
Right? For 300-400 years, thousands of years, the product lawyers sold was expertise, right? And advocacy, if you're in the court or across the table from somebody. Those are the two skills that were really brought to the table that people were buying. Now the product is an outcome, and it's an outcome that is a combination of the people, the data you have, the technology you have, and workflow, right? Ultimately, that is where the market has moved, and the winners will be the firms that can adapt to that and realize that that's the measure of quality now, not just whether you got the answer right or wrong, because I tell my partners the business of telling people what the law is gone, right? Anyone can find out what the law is. The what you should do is still an open playing field, and that's where we want to play.
So I have a question for you. Do you think the workflows, you're absolutely right on workflows, are these going to become standard operating procedures in time to come? And you would see that the workflows which the large law firms use, like yours, would also be copied with law firms, and thus creating some kind of a balance?
Yeah, I don't think there's much. I think workflows will be part of the IP and intelligence that you bring to market, right? So the best successful people who deliver the best quality will have the best people and the best workflows. Now, some of those become standardized, just like some documents become standardized in the market. But you know, we're in a world where we haven't even been able to standardize an NDA, right? I mean, that's such an obvious contractual documentation that clients still spend thousands, millions a year doing, which ends up in court once in a million NDAs at best. And the markets have not been able to standardize that. So there's a lot of room yet, and I think workflows will be similar. Right?
I agree.
What is the outcome you want to achieve? How do you do it? And I think that's part of the dynamic that's emerging now between law firms, clients, and the technology vendors as well, around what's the IP? Is the IP actually the workflow? Right? And I think that it's not just the precedent anymore or the client knowledge. I think the workflow is part of the IP, yeah.
If you were to advise India as a country, do you think we should shape our own AI framework, or we'll also have to end up following the global rules?
Well, I was in India a few months ago speaking to a room full of 500 Indian lawyers about this topic. I don't think it's a question of whether you have to, should. I think you will. I mean, if you look at India's growth and its place in the global economy, it's going to have a seat at the table, and will want one and will get one, because of its economic power and impact, because of its technological capability. It's such an advanced talent base that you have. And I think obviously, a bit like your privacy laws and other laws as well, you're going to look to what others have done. There's no point reinventing the wheel, but it has to work for India. And if it works for India, then I think it becomes a model for other countries, not only in the region, but also elsewhere, particularly in the global south. And I think with AI, you know, I think we're in a world where people have realised that perhaps that continental European model that we saw with privacy that was exported around the world is not the right answer and won't be adopted in the same way. So I can't see a future of AI that doesn't have India at the table.
Absolutely. See, in my view is if you learn to drive in India, you can drive anywhere in the world.
You take public transport.
My view is law and dispute or litigation are generated by humans. We have the largest population, we have the largest types of disputes in the world. I think you solve it for India, you solve it for the world. We of course have to learn the best practices globally, and put it in the framework. But I think unified, there's going to be one unified way of approach of solving problems. And I think with the use of AI, etc., this is just around the corner. I don't know whether it's a few months away or a few weeks away, but it's just around the corner. We'll see it. We'll see it leveling down.
Your views?
My view is that India is a great laboratory where cost of experimentation is low and scalability is high. So we should do that. That is how we'll become the leaders in the marketplace globally. And we should no longer think we are India. The whole concept of sovereignty would begin to disappear in next 100 years. Again, I'm not being nationalist or otherwise, but I'm saying that it is very difficult, and the whole concept of state will have to disappear, otherwise these wars will continue. So from state to the nation is different, but the state is different, and the whole concepts are undergoing already change among the younger people who will drive the future. So that is why, today we are seeing extreme conflicts and stuff like that, re-emergence of those things. But I believe that lawyers will have to think like lawyers as a profession. We still are old-time thinker. We think it's profession, not so much a business.
Great. Last question to all panelists. I mean, with AI change, do you think it will change the profession more than any reform or regulation?
Yes. I mean, yeah, I think it already is.
Wow.
And I think it will, depending on which bits of the legal market you're looking at, it will be transformational. So you've talked about access to justice, right? In most jurisdictions now, you have a huge problem of access to justice. You have a solution here now, and we're working with a couple of courts on this particular problem, where you could say to people, for a certain type of dispute, we can resolve that basically instantaneously for you, right? Instant justice. Yes. Now, is that right? Does it deal with the function of law in making people feel heard and making feel they have agency? There's complications to that. It's not just a number, unlike perhaps a business dispute where you might just say it just has to be resolved. But that could help revolutionize the court system in the UK, for example, where I practice, if you could do that. If you're looking at the corporate law market, I do think it is still a profession. We have duties to the law and to the courts, but also it is a business. And we need to find a way to deliver what clients want. There's insatiable demand for legal services. That will just keep growing as the world gets more complex. But there's not an insatiable money tree to pay for it. And so we need to deliver a product that is more efficient, more targeted, quicker, better. And there will be winners or losers in that game from who provides it. And again, if we're back here in 5 years' time, the world's leading law firms won't be the same law firms.
Will law be productized?
No, that depends on the strategy you adopt, actually. So you can go down the productized route. My personal view is
law as a service.
Yeah, that's my personal view is I don't want to go that route. Why? Because somebody else will solve that problem, and it's a different business. But because I feel that sort of the human expertise is so core to it, if you go the other direction and say, how do you use these tools to really amplify that human piece of the law, the professional responsibilities, the trust, the skill, the judgment, then it's where you get. So how I heard it described, it's not mine, metaphor, but I heard it described the other day, which I thought was quite apt, is we've built a system around a fighter pilot, right? So you've built the entire infrastructure around a highly, highly skilled fighter pilot. And we're in the phase now that we need to re-architect that for a drone pilot, right? And that's a different thing. It's still a business, there's still a human involved in the process, but everything that sits underneath it and the level of detail and what the drone pilot needs to do is different from what a fighter pilot needs to do, and we're in that change.
Yeah, so I recently came across a Y Combinator post where they say that we're looking for full stack companies, and they gave example of a full stack legal tech company. They said as a legal tech company, you could be making products which could possibly automate a lot of parts using AI or whatever technologies of a law firm. But what they went on in the next paragraph defining a full stack company is where you could replace 100,000 law firms and do a lot of their parts automatically. So this is Y Combinator speaking. So I believe Y Combinator has some vision. I believe a lot of the part, because the question was whether it's going to impact law. I think on the practice side, yes, there's going to be a lot of impact. On the judiciary side, I think there's going to be greater impact because the case burden is going to come plummeting down, right? Because I often see a lot of cases, a lot of question of law. You either have question of law or question of fact. So a question of law, a lot of cases already decided at a apex court is still being argued at a lower court, a district court, or a tribunal. And I think that would possibly reduce the case burden quite a lot. And that is one other way that it's going to impact law.
Parting thoughts.
No, I think the way in which I look at is that, this whole concept of law has two components. One, to mete out justice to the people. You can do 80 to 90% of the cases today through automation and AI and other, including in Malaysia and many other countries. All arguments are sorted out by and judgments are written. If you do not accept, then only in go and appeal. You can clear up a lot of things in no time. All backlog in India can be done in no time. Now, second part of law is managing relationship, business relationship, contracts and other things, personal relationship, marriages or otherwise, or social relationship. And fourth thing is, above all comes what you call governance. Governance is not written down. Okay, you can have got whatever amount of compliances you say, if governance could still be bad. So we'll have to combine this, what I call, first of all, judiciary, 70-80% can be easily done, including arbitration, blockchain usage, you know that, right? So those kind of things will help us to expedite the justice. It will also, and even the contracts, smart contracts, when they come, a lot of enforcement issues will be resolved. So we believe that is one part of the game. Second part of the game is that, role of ethics, philosophers, aestheticians, and other people would come to prominence. Those who understand the value, because lots of people don't understand. So we'll have to have that kind of thing. But it will be transdisciplinary approach. Otherwise, we will not be able to solve problem. So that's what is my humble.
Looks like we are entering a very turbulent and an exciting era. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sparing some time out of your busy schedule and joining us here. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You did a wonderful
Thanks.
job.
Thanks.